Good morning. It's 8:07 on News Talk 1079. Neil Larson, along with Julie Mason. And welcome to Tuesday. If you'd like to reach me on the Stones Automotive Group, call and text line. That number's 208-542-1079. Love to hear from you today. Of course, now President Trump is moving forward. And he signed a big bill yesterday, the Take It Down bill, which is a big step forward for protecting children online and when it comes to pornography. He also is now, I don't know if he's negotiating or arranging, I'm not quite sure, he's facilitating having the Ukraine and Russia peace talks at the Vatican, and Pope Leo seems open to the idea. Which, imagine that. It would be a very, very historic moment. And President Trump says the Vatican, of course, is a place of peace. And that's where this should happen. So, will it happen? I'm not really sure. He also went to Capitol Hill today. And the optics of him on Capitol Hill standing next to Speaker Mike Johnson talking about the passage of the big, beautiful bill, which is going to have a lot of good tax cuts. And also, I'm sure there's pork in it, too. There always is in these massively big omnibus bills because you have members of Congress, looking out for their own. And that's sort of how the game works. But it will be a big accomplishment for Trump legislatively here in the opening months of his term. By the way, we are only, 4 months in? We're 4 months in, I think almost to the day. And to all you Democrats out there, I just want to let you know, there's only 44 months to go of Trump's presidency. So you're 4 months in. We're not quite 10% of the way there, but you only have 44 months left for your hair to be on fire. At some point, your hair's gone, right? Like all the hair burns up. Isn't that how that works? You also have James. And the point is, Donald Trump is a force of nature in politics. He is. I don't know what the hurricane. He's the earthquake. He just is a force, and people don't like him. Obviously, he has his detractors, but when it's all said and done, people will look back on Donald Trump's tenure, both his first term and clearly his second term, especially if he continues this pace. And it will be undeniable how historic and impactful he has been. These are remarkable times. Watch them, absorb them. For those of you who like Trump, enjoy them. Because this is an anomaly in history, what we're watching and the pace at which he is working. It really is. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Meanwhile, you have the Democrats that every day, like there's a new layer of meltdown that happens among the Democrats. This is some lefty podcast. And by the way, kudos to this podcast. I didn't have to edit out any F words or any swear words at all. They're sitting down with Bernie. And though I probably disagree with a lot of what these folks say on a day-to-day basis, I really, truly appreciate the honest liberal who will show up, and if their party is in disarray, they will acknowledge that their party's in disarray. And that's what happened on this podcast where Bernie was a guest.
The problem I think a lot of voters had is like they didn't even know if it was her. We didn't even know if Biden was president. We didn't even know if these were her talking points. And we felt that over the last 4 elections, Democrats, we felt that we didn't have a say on who could be president. We talk a lot about the Republicans being autocrats and oligarchs and taking over democracy, but from the Democrat perspective, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, I felt like the Democratic Party completely removed the democratic process from its constituents. And I think they need to have some accountability of that.
No argument here.
No argument here. That's all he said. 3 words. No argument here. because the way this podcast host, never heard of him, but the way he laid it out is exactly accurate. And if you happen to be a Democrat, you know what? I need to have lunch with Democrats more often. I really do, because I'd like to have these honest conversations with them and say, does it, and I'm sure they'd probably want to redirect towards Orange Man bad and Trump terrible, but I would ask them, does it bother you that your party has kiped the nomination away from the Democrat rank and file for the last 4 elections? And 2008 was the last time. Barack Obama legitimately won the nomination back in 2008. Since then, well, maybe, who knows? Who knows what deep, dark conspiracy theories there are? But that was the last one where it was not known that the DNC had kiped the nomination from the average Democrat voter. But yet, and I talked about projection yesterday. This is another perfect example. They say that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, that Republicans are fascists, that democracy is under assault. This from a party that actually has not utilized democracy to choose their nominees for president in nearly 20 years. So how does that work? That's the question I would ask my figurative Democrat lunch partner here. I would say, how does that work? Because I do hear you guys saying Trump's the threat to democracy, but you guys don't even utilize democracy to choose your nominees. Now, you start out with the illusion that you do, but when the going gets tough, or when things aren't turning out the way the party elite want it to, then they shift gears. They do a switcheroo, or they change the superdelegate rules so that Bernie can't get the nomination, and instead it goes to Hillary Clinton. And they don't want to look in the mirror. For them, it's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. Orange man bad. Let's talk about Trump. And so they move away from it. But a little bit later in this interview, it was very interesting to hear, because they pressed Bernie a little bit and said, then why did you support Hillary Clinton then? And he said, well, what other choice did I have? Because you're not going to support Trump, and you want to do the least bad. He didn't like Hillary, but you want to do the least bad, and in their eyes, that was Hillary. Strange, but whatever. That's their viewpoint. But then there was this revisiting of the Democrats being anti-democratic.
Food to eat, that the schools will deteriorate, people will not have health care.
I got it.
And I'm an elected official. I got to represent the people.
That's fair.
And I can't turn my back on.
But then could we not also say, if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear.
Fair enough. That is. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point.
He concedes the point when you have a Democrat podcaster saying, isn't our party the threat to democracy? Now, this is all great for us. I look at this and I'm thinking, you have a growing number of Democrats that are saying they don't care what we think. We're not the ones and the whole point of a primary is that the party members are able to choose who represents them to be the nominee. And that's true for a bunch of races. It is not true for the Democrats when it comes to the presidency. So it's a very, very good point to say, are we not the threat to democracy then? Because we're given the middle finger to democracy when we go to choose that. They are in a bind, and I have felt for quite some time, maybe since last year before the election, I have felt for quite some time that the Democrat Party may not recover from the switcheroo last year. I think there were a lot of Democrats that wanted, it could have been a speedy process, it could have been fast, it could have been done concisely, but basically their elite leaders said, we're doing this, and we're giving it to Kamala, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's why I think the Democrats are struggling to get their legs underneath them. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, and right now they're in a crisis. They truly are. And as it's sort of fun to watch for us, I can't imagine what it's like being on the inside right now, where you have everything in disarray. You have Bernie Sanders, one of the leading U.S. senators, and he's not technically a Democrat, but he is a Democrat. He always caucuses with them. He pushes their issues for the most part. And so effectively, he's a Democrat. And he's saying they're a threat to democracy. You have Joe Biden, who they are working very, very vigorously to try and distract the American people from this emerging narrative that they, along with the media, covered up Joe Biden's dementia for 4 years. And it arguably is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest scandals in American political history. That you had people, Jake Tapper himself, the guy writing the book, the reveal book, the expose book, who at one point characterized Joe Biden's difficulties as a stutter. So they know this is potentially an existential threat to their party and to their movement because they were involved in not just, the cover-up of an isolated incident is one thing. All right. And this happens all the time, whether it's an extramarital affair or it might be the cover-up of financial some financial crime that was committed or an instance of fraud. A cover-up is almost understandable, not defensible, but understandable. This was just an ongoing effort to continue to gaslight and lie to the American people. They know how serious this is. They know that as America wakes up to this reality, they will ask, why would we ever trust this party again? Why would we ever trust Joe Scarborough, who said, roll the tape? F you if you don't agree with me. This is the best Biden ever. Why in the world would they ever trust that? Because if they go back to say, okay, we'll forgive you and we trust you now and we think you learned your lesson, and so I'll reward you with my eyes and ears again. I'll reward you with my vote again. That the toxic relationship will just continue. The abusive relationship will continue. And there are enough Americans now, and when you look at the approval rating of Democrats at large, it has remained low now for months. And sometimes you'll see support levels drop, but they typically rebound. You'll see support levels spike, but then they come down. And they come down to a somewhat reasonable level, somewhere between 30 and 55%. Like that's a workable level because they can all placate their own constituencies. Nationally, they might be a little underwater, but that's okay. They don't have to face a national vote. This, when they're getting down into the teens and the 20s and it's sustained, they know that they may not be able to benefit from the historic norm that during a midterm, they'll gain seats because the other party has the White House. So this next year, as we go into 2026, and we're going to start to see the campaigns begin here very, very quickly. We're about a year away from next year's midterm primaries. And so I hate to tell you this, I feel like we just got done with an election. We're about to start to enter into that season again. If we get through 2026 and the Democrats in Congress lose some seats, it is a 4-alarm fire for them. They will have to fire absolutely everybody at the DNC. They will have to force a whole bunch of resignations, and they're going to have to bring in a lot of fresh faces, likable faces, and an ideology that is more palatable to the American people, and knock it off with the gender stuff and the race stuff and the purple hair and all the things that they've been up to for the past few years. This mentally ill version of the Democrat Party has been decimating to them. And I think some of them are beginning to recognize it. And it's possible. Remember, and I'm not enough of a history buff to tell you what happened to the Whigs. Remember the Whigs, the WHIG Whigs? And they were phased out as a party. I think there was some turnover into the Republican Party, if I remember right. Like I said, I don't really care about the details on it. I should study it a little bit more. But the point is, there have been previous political parties that become defunct, and they lose their relevance. They lose their appeal to their constituents. And I think even though they still have fairly solid numbers in the House of Representatives and somewhat a substantial number in the U.S. Senate, I believe that we're closer to that defunct status of the Democrat Party than many of them would like to acknowledge or realize. So when I look at places like Idaho, and when you have Bernie and AOC who are on their oligarchy tour, and these are open, avowed socialists, and what Democrats we do have so excitedly and enthusiastically go and listen to socialists, that is a terrible sign. That for them, that's a terrible, terrible sign. It means that many of them have abandoned any kind of a traditional view of the Democrat Party, which for them has been historically blue collar. We're standing up for the working man. They don't anymore. If you were to go out and say which political force looks out for the working men and women, most people now would say it's MAGA. They would say it's Donald Trump. He's the guy that connects best with the roughnecks and the rednecks and even the union, not the union bosses. They're still probably firmly Democrat, but just your average union guy showing up to work every day. They feel more represented by Donald Trump than they do by anybody in the Democrat Party today. They've lost their core, and they've done it on the altar. They've sacrificed that core base on the altar of their woke DEI cultural progressive movement. And I don't know if there's any coming back from that. I really don't. I think somebody's going to have to come along and rebrand something. And it might be the Democrat Party. It might be. But there is such still strong resistance to that. But it could be a new center-left party in America. I really think we're on the cusp of that. And we can credit Donald Trump for the destruction of the Democrat Party. They are in complete disarray. And it's all fueled by their hatred of Orange Man Bad and their toxic woke politics. We'll be back. It's 8:26 on News Talk 1079. It's 8:29 now on News Talk 1079. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason. I want to talk for a moment about Clayton Homes' sign and save event. You can save up to $5,000 instantly on your home purchase at Clayton Homes during this event. Save up to $2,500 on a single section home or $5,000 on a multi-section home. Every Clayton built home uses products from the world's most trusted brands. And what that means is that just in time for summer, you can get a home equipped with energy smart features for year-round comfort and a lifetime of savings. Clayton Homes is changing the way that homes are built, making them affordable to buy and cost less to live in, because the craftsmen at Clayton build their homes in state-of-the-art facilities that help protect your new home from the elements during construction, and they're designed with you in mind, with premium features that turn your house into a dream home. Clayton Homes are built with thick insulation and tight construction, designed to help you keep you comfortable and to help save you money so that you can get the luxury, the quality, and the style that you want in a beautiful, affordable home with energy-efficient features to fit your budget. Visit the local Clayton Homes near you, or you can browse their limited time deals at manufacturedhomeoffers.com to learn more. Now, terms and conditions for the Sign and Save sales event at manufacturedhomeoffers.com. That's where you can find them. Available only at participating Clayton Homes family of brands retailers through August 31st. Amount of savings may be limited. Ask for details. May not be available with certain financing. Lender restrictions apply. All right, Julie, welcome back.
Hi.
James Comey, you know what we could do as a flash poll? James Comey thinks people are mad at him because he walked on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
We should do a feature where we're like, people are mad at Jeff Dahmer because he had dinner.
Mm-hmm.
People are mad at the 9/11 bombers because they flew airplanes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can just go on and on
right.
and on.
Yes, absolutely. So this is him on MSNBC.
You are back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
So take me back to the walk on the beach.
Oh, what a hard-hitting question. Mm-hmm. Take me back to the walk on the beach.
Yeah, tell me. Spin your tell.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
What was the weather like? Mm-hmm. Was the sun shining?
Oh, did you have flip-flops on or were you walking barefoot?
Could you smell the salty air from the ocean breeze?
Were you and your wife holding hands?
Were you going to go and get Italian food afterward?
Gelato.
Gelato,
That's what they were getting.
Did you walk the boardwalk as well? Good crap.
Yeah.
All because I walked on the beach.
Pretty frustrating.
So now, Julie, you sent me a link, and I'm a little surprised that at Amazon.
I was just going to say that. While you're telling them the story, I'm going to look up and see if it's still there.
Okay, so they are now selling merch that are 8647. So they've got the one Julie sent was baseball caps. I'm sure they probably have T-shirts and coffee mugs and a whole bunch of stuff.
They're everywhere. Everywhere. All I did was 8647 hat, and let's see, 9 sellers popped up immediately.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, do you have a problem with this?
I do. I have a big problem with this.
I mean, you couldn't sell anything with a Dixie flag on it. Mm-mm. The Confederate flag, they would see if there's anything with the Confederate flag.
Okay.
Let's see if you can buy something with the Confederate flag, which, of course, is racist dog whistle, words or messaging. But you can put a thinly veiled threat to assassinate the president, or at least a death wish, and that's okay. Somebody sort this out.
Are you ready for this? There's not a single hit for a Confederate flag.
They don't let it. They don't allow it.
Yeah, there's a ton of like cosplay Confederate hats, so that like you're dressing up with the crossed rifles. Yeah. There's a ton of those. There's a General Lee hat from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
That's it. There is no Confederate flag.
Okay, but
yeah. I did equal searches. I did 8647 hat and I did Confederate hat.
Okay, so and we could probably find other examples too of things that they will not allow. So Julie, one of our digital guys came in the other day. He produces a bunch of our stuff afterwards and uploads it to like YouTube and he said, we got a warning. You and I were talking about vaccines. And apparently YouTube tisk-tisked us and said, what you're talking about, we don't like about vaccines. And I looked at Jesse and I'm like, tough crap. We're not going to change what we're saying because of YouTube's algorithm. Mm-hmm. That's not happening.
Yeah.
We'll exit from YouTube and then we'll heavily promote Rumble or wherever. But we have to stop bending to this. But it reminds me of this, where you have these elites sitting in these executive offices that are making these decisions about what ideas get to be allowed and what ideas don't get to be allowed. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. The Confederate flag, that's not my thing. Like I probably wouldn't put one on my car. I don't think that it's equivalent to overt racism. And I think there are a lot of reasons why I watched Dukes of Hazzard growing up. Mm-hmm. And the General Lee had the Confederate flag on the top. I never thought that, well, in the middle of the night, they're going to KKK parties and they're stringing up people. And no, that's ridiculous. But you can have a hat that is a thinly veiled death wish on the president of the United States. That's okay.
That's okay.
Amazon.
Mm-hmm. I should have looked to see how many reviews there are, because you can figure out by reviews what probably is a portion of what was sold. And I mean, if they're getting heavily reviewed, they're getting even more sold. And
yeah,
look, the bottom line is there are powers that be that make these calls, and there is all sorts of things. There's commerce that's allowed to happen at the expense of Republicans. There are court cases that exist at the expense of Republicans. There are lies told by journalists at the expense of the Republicans. And of just those three examples that I just gave, it wouldn't be the same if the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
There are not lies told about the Democrats in the mainstream media the way there are about Republicans. There are not products sold. I mean, people would say, what about F. Joe Biden? Well, that's not a, we want to kill him.
See if there's any Let's Go Brandon merch on Amazon. Okay. That would be an interesting, because somebody texted in how the left freaked out about Let's Go Brandon. Remember that? And that was not even a death wish. That was just a euphemistic phrase because a reporter tried to cover the fact that the crowd was chanting.
Yeah, it was based upon them lying again.
Do they have Let's Go Brandon?
Oh, tons of stuff.
Okay, good.
Tons of stuff.
At least there is that. I guess my point is, and I would ask this question: does 8647 fall under the First Amendment? Do you think that we should be able to publicly express our desire for the president to be assassinated?
I would say probably yes. If you take that all the way to the Supreme Court, you probably have the option to say that under your First Amendment right. You can. Now you might get a visit from the Secret Service, and you take that risk. Your First Amendment right doesn't absolve you from getting in trouble criminally. You can just say it. You might get a visit from the Secret Service. My thing is that I just want the rules to be equal across the board. So if you're going to allow 8647 on your site, you shouldn't be silencing conservatives who put things up.
Yes, agreed.
I just want equal play. When we get these data point reports that are available now because of search engines like ChatGPT, when we get these data point reports that, like say, CBS is covering Trump 97% negatively, I just want a fair playing field. That's all.
Yeah.
I would even take a 60-40, but 97-3?
I don't. Here's the thing, and I'll say this. I think what Donald Trump is doing is not a 50-50 positive negative.
No.
So, but it's definitely not a 95-5. It might be a 60-40, like naturally. Like he does things that are controversial, and it's okay to point that out. And I think sometimes, not you, Julie, but I think there can be this mistaken notion that everything should always be 50-50. Yeah. Well, no, it's not. That would be like me saying, well, when we talk about Lori Vallow Daybell,
yeah, we got to give equal.
We need to speak positively of her half the time. Well, no, she killed her kids.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to. So, not that I'm comparing Donald Trump to Lori Vallow Daybell. The point is that people who are in high profile positions are not 50-50 neutral. Mm-hmm. They do things that are more complicated. And so I don't expect 50-50. I don't think that's the definition of fairness. I just want accuracy. Mm-hmm. And I think Trump probably, I love what he does, but I'm also transparent and open about my own biases. Mm-hmm. I fully acknowledge there are other people that don't like what he said. I just want him to tell the truth.
Right.
We shouldn't even have. You know what's weird? The idea of favorable coverage and unfavorable coverage. Just give accurate coverage. Yeah.
Well, isn't that interesting that you can choose that data point because that's the way it is now? There isn't just telling the facts of a story.
Yeah.
That rarely happens on a newscast anymore. I mean, look, it doesn't really matter which one. You can find it all over the place.
Yeah.
Both Republican and Democrat. There's just far more people working in the field of broadcast journalism that are Democrat.
Yeah.
It is shifting because the platforms have changed and the Republican voices are being amplified.
So if you go back in the lineage of our industry, talk radio, the left has always wanted to implement what's called the fairness doctrine, which sounds really good, doesn't it? Fairness.
Mm-hmm. They always choose those kind of words.
Yeah. So what they did, and after a while, the fairness doctrine took on a nickname, the hush rush law, which basically they wanted to go in and tell broadcast outlets, and specifically talk radio, that you have to give balanced coverage. Like you can't, if you have an hour of conservative programming, you need an hour of liberal programming. You need to present both sides. Now, all of that sounds great, right? Like you look at it and you're like, well, yeah, these are public airwaves. And of course you should provide balance and you should do that. But then when you dig into the logistics of actually doing that, there are political pundits out there that are pro-choice and also pro-Second Amendment. Are they a conservative or are they a liberal? There are issues that fall into neither conservative nor liberal. There's no way to pinpoint where balance is on a particular issue. You have libertarians that will agree with far leftists when it comes to smoking marijuana. So what's balance on that issue?
Look, I think the seatbelt law is overreaching. Where do I land with that?
Yeah, it's a good point.
You can't call me anything with that.
Yeah, no, it's true. And so there's no way, and we will openly say, we're pretty mainstream conservative. I would never call us center right. We're just solidly conservative. That's where I would put myself. Now, I'm probably not as far right as some of the really far right people. That's okay. My goal is not to get as far right as I can. My goal is to get to the ideology that I think works best for individual freedom and for America. And so I'm not going to hush myself because some external force out there thinks, well, you need to be more balanced. Okay, well, maybe people on the other side need to be as articulate as we are. Maybe they need... Look, I had to earn my way to be able to be on the radio to broadcast to thousands of people every day. You don't automatically get a slot because you're on the other side. And that's what the left wanted to do. They wanted to take the hard work of people like Rush Limbaugh and others and say, well, now you have to divide your stage in half and give us the other half.
Yeah.
Then they didn't earn it.
Do you know what's interesting about this retelling of history that you're talking about, which was what, probably 12, 15 years ago? How long ago was this?
You know what? It had a little flare up during Obama's years, but it was really big in the 90s.
Okay. So, you know what's interesting about that is I think the Democrats could see the writing on the wall. There was a chance they were going to lose control of the narrative, and they were doing everything they possibly could to keep control of the narrative in those instances that you're talking about that happened decades ago.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine the angst they're feeling right now over the last maybe just 5 years since COVID. They thought they had nailed us with COVID. They thought they had nailed conservatives with COVID and that they had control of everything. And they did for a while. They really did.
Yeah.
But when you push on people's independent meter like that, when you're pushing that button and going, I own you, I own you, I own you, you start to get pushed back.
Yeah.
And man, they're reaping that now.
Oh, they really are. And I mean, are you talking about what I was talking about in the monologue? How they are taking they don't trust their own people.
Right.
That's what's crazy. We have a troll in the text line this morning. And they're saying, what are you smoking? You know, the Democrats hold, almost half the seats. And now they do. I think their hold on those seats is far more fragile than the Republicans' hold on it. The numbers look really close. But I think there are a lot of people in swing districts that are ready for a change. And you look at Trump and, depending on the poll, he's up and down. But as we get to the midterms, it's going to be very interesting to see how all of the messaging plays out, because I don't see any hope on the horizon whatsoever that the Democrats are going to get their crap together in time for next year.
I would also point out the Democrats have the current level of seats in the House and the Senate simply because they broke the rules.
That's true.
They brought in all of these illegals. They amplified and used people with mental illness to get to places where they're at. They lied to you with things like BLM. They weaponized DAs. I mean, I could go on forever at the ways that they broke the rules in order to maintain the amount of seats that they currently have.
That's true. I mean, and they have to break the rules. They cannot win in a traditional environment, level playing field, in the contest for ideas, the hearts and the minds of the American people, they can't win on that playing field. That's why they always go to the courts to get their policy outcomes. They can't win. They have to cheat in some way for them to stay viable.
They killed hundreds of thousands of people. I'm going to say that again. They killed hundreds of thousands of people with a virus to accomplish a power grab. Go ahead and defend that party.
Yeah. You're right. Well, and how do they face, when Bernie was faced with the question, I would love to just hear from the traditional Democrat out there. How do you feel that the party, basically, the elite in the party, gave a double middle finger to the voters in the party for the past several presidential cycles?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they lied right to your face over and over again.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know how you stand behind that party.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. Look, do Republicans have their own set of problems? Sure. Yeah, we have our own challenges as well. But I think ours are much more isolated and manageable. There's no cohesion at all. Right now, Donald Trump is the organizing center of the Republican Party. Now, you can oppose him, but I think often you do it to your own detriment. Right now, what is the organizing center of the Democrat Party?
Is there one?
There isn't one.
Your current minority leader in the Senate, what was his approval rating? 17%?
Hakeem Jeffries, yeah.
No, Schumer's, I think.
Oh, Schumer. In the Senate, yeah.
Yeah, Schumer's was 17%.
Yeah, that's right.
Hakeem Jeffries is not that great either. You don't have leadership. You lied with your last administration, both with Kamala and with Joe. The lies with Joe are just exploding in your face right now. You can't even turn to Kamala to be the leader of your regeneration project. They've got nothing.
Yeah, they don't have anything. They really don't have anything. And there's no agreement about a path forward either. The house burns down. You call the insurance company and they'll help you financially get what you need. And then you call a bank, and then you call the demolition company to come in and move it out. And they don't have any of that. Or, you can recover from a devastation and devastating loss, but you have to be organized. At least you have to start making phone calls and have a plan that most people agree on.
Yeah.
The Democrats don't have that. They're arguing over what the next steps are. And it's weird to watch. It really is weird to watch, because usually they are the ones that have been so well organized and
united.
Everyone's united. Everyone's on the same page, and they can take the worst ideas and beat us with the worst ideas because they're organized and unified, and we're arguing over two principled positions.
Yeah.
And now the tables have turned. Not entirely and not on every issue. But Trump has absolutely decimated that party. And it really is fascinating to watch them just stumble around in the dark trying to recover.
There's a reason they've been so terrified of this man.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, it's 8:50 on News Talk 107.9. Oh, my goodness.
We talked a lot.
We did talk quite a bit. All right, we'll be right back after this on News Talk 107.9.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
It's 8:52 on News Talk 107.9.
Oh, the train wreck that just happened across the desk from me.
Well, nobody would have known unless you said something. So Anyway, we're back now on News Talk 1079.
All right, let me chat with you about the warehouse liquidation sale that's happening right now at Timberline Home. If you've been waiting for a great time to buy furniture, this is your reward. You waited for the right time. This warehouse liquidation sale has deep discounts that you haven't seen at other points in the year. Let me give an example. There's a solid wood dining room set. It's got 6 chairs and a table. It was priced at $3,899. It's now discounted to $1,299. You guys, that's a steal on a six chairs and tables. Like, that is amazing. And that's not all. Like, all of the recliners in the store, the ones that are in stock, are buy one, get one free. So if you've been looking to revamp your great room or your TV room, a good time to do it. And speaking of recliners, Timberline Home carries a special recliner called a Z-cliner. It is specifically designed for the people who choose to sleep in a recliner instead of in a bed. And that's more people than you think. It's just the way that they get good sleep. The Z-cliner has the ability to have great circulation benefits. It's got warming. It's got cooling. It's made of fabric that actually changes the circulation of the body. There's some great things about the Z-cliner that you need to stop in and ask about at Timberline Home if you're the person who likes to sleep that way. But it's even better. They've now introduced the Zofa. That's a sofa that is like the Z-cliner, except it's for 2 people. So it reclines and 2 people can sleep on the Zofa. Both the Zofa and the Z-cliner have a limited time offer of $300 off. So now is a great time to take advantage of that. And if you're just wanting to look and see the beautiful items they have, Timberline Home is a great place to visit. Really unique pieces of furniture. 711 East Anderson in Idaho Falls. Again, that's the warehouse liquidation sale.
All right, 8:55. I've got mail. We'll be back.
Yes, you do.
After this.
You know, I was telling the story that, and some of you were at that news conference. I gave a news conference where I was
President Trump on Capitol Hill speaking to reporters. We'll have some of that audio for you coming up just ahead on News Talk 1079. And we are back on News Talk 1079. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason. President Trump making the rounds at Capitol Hill and just got out of some meetings with the House GOP and had an interaction with some of the reporters. Let's play some of that here, Julie. I think this is it.
Including Senator Josh Hawley, that this could impact benefits and that could be amount to a quote hidden tax on the.
Here's what I said. Here's what I said. What do you want to say? I said waste, fraud, and abuse for Medicaid. If you find waste or fraud or abuse, we want to strengthen Medicaid. We want to strengthen Medicare. Waste, fraud, and abuse. The Democrats will let illegals be on. They'll destroy it. It will be destroyed. They want to have illegal immigrants be on. And if you do that, because it wasn't designed for that. Waste, fraud, and abuse.
Can you guarantee that your voters who supported you in the election, particularly working class voters, will not lose health insurance under this bill?
Oh, they won't lose health insurance. Not only that, remember, I'm cutting drug prices by 85%. And right now, I'm saving it. I'm saving the whole thing because I did something that nobody was willing to do. Other countries pay a tiny fraction what we do. And I instituted favored nations. We're now going to pay the lowest in the world. We're going to be the equivalent of the lowest country in the world. People go to London, they go to Canada, they go to other countries, many other countries, because they want to buy their pharmaceutical products, their drugs, at a fraction of the cost. Now we're going to have the lowest cost anywhere in the world, and nobody else would do that but me. And that might be an election by itself, might be election winning. Now, when you add that in, when you put that into Medicaid and Medicare, we've just strengthened Medicare and Medicaid. And
okay, so that you get the idea of what Trump's saying. Let's go back to the reporter's question. And this is, I don't know if it's a new tactic or it's just a frequent use of an old tactic where they say, can you guarantee that no one's going to lose their Medicaid coverage? Well, when you have millions and millions of people on Medicaid or Medicare, you're probably going to find an example here or there. Mm-hmm. The whole thrust of these reforms is to get rid of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. Mm-hmm. Will there be a mistake here and there? Possibly, but that's not the purpose of the law. So the media is setting a trap. They're setting a trap for Trump where he didn't take the bait there. He phrased his question very differently. But they're trying to set it up so he'll say, I will guarantee, and then they go out and they find one of these anomalous examples and then turn that story into journalism porn, essentially, and emotion porn, and saying, oh, the poor Smith family in Arkansas lost their Medicaid and they're blah, 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 blah. And then they put them on a poster and they over-report this story so they can then craft a narrative that Donald Trump destroyed Medicaid. Mm-hmm. When in reality, all he did, in essence, was get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah, it was a few days ago. It might have even been on Friday. I sent you an audio clip that talked about there was some reporting on Medicaid and how multiple states have passed their version of Medicaid expansion, like we passed in Idaho, and how that opened up the floodgates in many, many states for this fraud to happen because you were rearranging the way that you evaluated whether or not people should be on the system or not.
Yeah.
And when you did that, it created these gaps where people fell through and were able to get on the system but weren't supposed to. Then you pair that with all of COVID-19 and how they just opened up and let most people on it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Those two factors have created this massive amount of fraud and abuse of the Medicaid system. If you don't deserve it, you shouldn't be on it. Stop advocating for the criminal.
Yeah.
If you're abusing the system, you're a criminal.
Right. You are. And you should be punished. Number one, you need to be stopped from doing it. But number two, I hope we chase down and prosecute every single one of these Medicaid and Medicare fraudsters out there.
Yeah. It is interesting to me that over and over again from this microphone, I've had to clarify. You have clarified. Trump is again clarifying in his answer. They just want to say cuts to Medicaid, cuts to Medicaid.
Yeah.
It is an erroneous phrase.
Well, and I think they know it. They're not this obtuse. They just need something. Julie, like we said last hour, they're bumping around, scrambling. They have no idea what to do. So they're looking for some shred of a narrative to try and go after Trump with. And we keep hearing it over and over and over again about these cuts to Medicaid, cuts to Medicaid. No, it's the elimination of fraud and waste and abuse in Medicaid.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We got a text from somebody during that long segment that we did last hour saying, well, the Republicans are divided too. You're right. We are. We're just not in the place that the Democrats are. We're not even close to being in the place where the Democrats are.
I want to make a clarification, though. Divided is one thing. Utterly decimated is another.
Yeah.
And right now, both parties are divided. Only one party is utterly decimated. Mm-hmm. We have a strong party leader. I believe we have a strong vision. We have a strong direction. And you have some division in the party, but that's just a feature of almost any political party. It's just how it is. Mm-hmm. You can manage that and you can work around it. Right now, the Democrats just have nothing. They are a sinking ship, and our ship is still good. But we are arguing.
We got to repair some holes.
Yeah, that's true. We're arguing over the food in the cafeteria on on the cruise. But
right.
It's nothing like what's happening on the other side of the aisle.
And look, we have a leader who showed up to Capitol Hill today trying to unite people behind this bill. I hope he's successful. I don't know if he will be. We have heard from both of our senators that they're going to take a scalpel to this bill. They're going to cut out some pieces and rearrange some pieces and put in an artificial hip here. And,
right.
There's going to be some changes to the bill.
Stop making fun of me. No, there will. I just hope, Julie, that it's not such a fragile coalition in the House side that whatever the Senate does, it unravels. Like they
get their feelers hurt.
Yes, and sad. The problem is when you have just a slim majority like we have, that makes any 2 or 3 Republican House members immensely powerful, and that's frustrating.
Yeah,
I wouldn't argue that it should be any other way because, 50 plus 1 is 50 plus 1. That's what you have to get to. But it is a frustrating part of the reality of where we're at.
Yes, it is.
That they, and you know what? I want to say this without causing a fight here. I feel like you have, and I'll name names. Rand Paul is one that I think is politically very, you can say principled, and I think he is principled. I'm not going to argue that he's not. He's not principled. But they will throw out the baby with the bathwater on principle. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's kind of sad. I think they don't really have a good grasp of, we're getting 80% of what we want. Mm-hmm. And I wish there was some, there does reach a point, right? There does reach a point where you're saying, I really can't support that. But I think there are some who think that it has to be at 100% or very close to 100% for them to be able to support it. It has to be more than 50. It has to be more than 60 and 70. But if you're going to get about 75 to 80% of what you want in something, by gum, you better start considering supporting that, because you're not going to get much in politics if your position is always, I need 98 or 99% of what I want in everything.
Especially in the year 2025, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear it's not happening. The House is really, and I hate to say this, but they've really got nothing done.
No, you're right.
Since Trump has been put into office. This is the reason why.
Yeah.
They refuse to unite behind certain concepts.
Yeah. And imagine, well, if you could take the cumulative, if we could have 80% wins back to back to back to back to back, that accumulates into getting so much of what you want over time.
It absolutely does. And I want to point out also, sometimes you think you got to win. You might be Rand Paul and you think you really got to win.
Yeah.
And you didn't get a win. Amy Coney Barrett is the perfect example. How many high fives did we do thinking this Supreme Court justice was going to be phenomenal for conservatives?
Yeah.
It hasn't. It hasn't panned out.
No.
So sometimes you throw out the baby with the bathwater without the realization you might not even get the reward you were hoping for.
Yeah, that's true. What payoff is there? We had an issue like that with Rand Paul and tariffs just a few weeks ago. And I asked Senator Crapo about this because Rand Paul was working with the Democrats to sink Trump's tariffs. And I didn't understand why that was happening because, you know what it comes down to, Julie, and I talk about this all the time. I'm an outcomes guy. I don't care how good your intentions are. And I think there are people that they feel like as long as I have input my good intentions, my job is done. Mm-hmm. And the outcome be damned. And I can't operate like that. For me, the outcome is probably the most important thing. And whatever you got to do to make that good or at least optimal outcome happen, then you do. I mean, short of illegality and unethical stuff, but it just, I just think a different way. I just think a different way. And we've known people, Julie, that largely Evan McMullen voters who they think their conscience is the only thing that matters in the universe.
Right.
And even if their actions end up getting Hillary Clinton elected, their intentions are the most important thing in the universe. And that to me is frustrating.
Yeah. There's just zero movement on their part. Okay, let's talk about a really basic one that we have spoken about ad nauseum here at News Talk 1079, the porn and library bill.
Yeah.
Okay, the ending bill that was signed into law, not my favorite, not even close. Mm-hmm. Not even close. But you had to look at it and go, we're looking for an outcome. And right now, this is the best that we're going to get.
Yeah.
And this is the version that's going to go forward. Imagine if you stood on your principles of, no, I wanted more. I wanted more. We still wouldn't have a bill. We wouldn't have a law.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So that's probably a 68% win, Not great, but we'll take it.
You took what you could get.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially after 3 years of trying to get something. Finally got there. Somebody texted in, and quite frankly, Julie, we probably ought to take a segment this hour and do stump speeches where people can call in, vote yes on this bond, vote no on that levy, vote, and we'll probably do that. Let's do it after the half.
Okay.
But right now, we need to talk about my tomatoes. They survived another night, Julie.
And what is this cold weather? My goodness. Have you just been putting the tomatoes on your deck? Is that where you've been putting them?
No, they're out on a kind of a cement pad out by our apple tree.
Well, I know, but when it's cold.
No, I get a couple of sheets and I just throw them over the tomato cages.
Okay.
So I just cover them. So.
All right. Well, that's good because these are really great tomatoes that you have planted from Town and Country Gardens.
I did get them from Town and Country Gardens. One is a big beef. We've got some other slicers growing. We have some cherry tomatoes as well. And I can't wait to just watch them grow through the summer. And then I'll make some salsa.
Fantastic. Yet it's not too late to get yours. They still have all the plants, all your gardening needs at Town and Country Gardens. Hanging baskets. Memorial Day is this weekend.
Yeah.
If you'd like to take something to those loved ones who have passed, you can go on down to Town and Country Gardens and get your flowers there. They will be beautiful. I promise. We've walked the grounds of Town and Country Gardens. They're gorgeous.
Anything else you need, whether it's mulch or bark or trees or shrubs, they've got it for you at Town and Country Gardens, south of Idaho Falls on the Yellowstone Highway across from the Budweiser plant. So we just got a text you.
Yeah, I see
and
it.
I want to read this, and then I'm not going to argue with the text. I'm just going to ask a food for thought question. That's where I disagree with you, Neal. Voting your conscience is the vote of integrity. Just voting for someone and holding your nose is a coward's way of living. Okay, again, they've sort of tacitly called us cowards, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. I would say back to you is how things turned out or turn out incorporated into your conscience. Again, let me ask that again. I really want this person to think about it because this is a great discussion. And I'm not offended. They called me a coward, but I'm not offended because I'm hoping they might think about it a little different way is how it turns out part of your conscience. Because for me, it is.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting concept because this is so black and white. So I would challenge also this person to move this out of a vote category and into other parts of their life. So let's say you have an adult child who chooses to do things that are drastically different than the value system that they were raised on. What's your conscience doing there? What's your integrity doing there? Let's say their household has actions or items in it that don't align with your integrity. Do you never visit them?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's just my question. Where's your black and white?
Something has to be compromised at some point, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. 9:23 on News Talk 107.9. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line 208-542-1079. Back up to this. Okay, I'm going to text. Actually, I'm going to take a pic. When you guys do a swipe, when you type in, do you type in letter by letter or do you do the swipe?
No, I'm a letter.
I'm a swipe guy. But there's some words it's almost impossible using a swipe to get the right word because it's close enough to another word or my finger's too fat. I use my thumb usually for it.
It's clear I'm a type girl because whenever I'm typing out ing on a word, working, trying, scheduling, whatever.
Yeah.
I fat finger it all the time and it adds an extra G.
Oh.
I'm sure you have noticed that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you watch the video of the Scott Adams saying he has cancer, the Dilbert creator?
Yes.
I sent that to you because it was really heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
That was a really heartbreaking video to watch.
Yeah.
To recognize your mortality like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is. And I mean, could it be bittersweet? Like I've heard from people who have terminal cancer, and even though there's a lot of pain and sadness for your family, they say it's also kind of one of the most beautiful times of your life.
You just know the outcomes at that point.
Well, there's so much about your ambitions that you can relinquish that's unhealthy, and just Focus on relationships. And
I think it kind of depends on the person. My mother never did.
yeah.
I think if you're so terrified to pass, you never go to that place.
Yeah.
I think if you find peace with passing, that would be where you'd go.
But
You'd
your
be able
mom
to
never was at peace with it.
Never.
I would hope I would be.
I can't read that person's text.
The one that says,
So do you pay that child's rent? There isn't a black and white answer. That's what I'm trying. That was my point.
yeah. Well, every situation's different.
Yes. And so to say that voting for outcomes is an integrity issue, I disagree. Because is it an integrity issue if your child is homeless?
Well, you can't answer that question with that limited information.
Yeah.
Are there times when you help your adult kids with rent? Yes, there would be. You betcha. 9:28 on News Talk 107.9. Julie, we've had this question. Go over how you think no tax on tips and overtime will work. Will we be taxed heavily at the end of the year? I don't think so. I think that income will just simply be exempt from taxes. Kind of like when you pay health insurance premiums. You pay on what's left over. So take your gross paycheck. Overtime gets set aside, and it's yours, free and clear. Tips set aside, it's yours, free and clear. It will not be considered taxable income every 2 weeks or twice a month, nor will it be considered taxable income on April 15th when you file your taxes. I think it truly is tax-free.
Yeah, that's the way that I'm interpreting it as well. It'll just, your overtime will be calculated. Think about your tax forms. It'll be calculated in that part that's non-taxable income.
Yeah.
Or non-taxable items, I should say, because there's other things that go in those categories.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move.
I think this is a huge win for somebody who might be living paycheck to paycheck and they have a chance to pick up some extra shifts and it works with their life. Or imagine this. Okay, so let's say you're just exiting college. My son-in-law is going to exit with massive debt, becoming a physician, right? Yeah. What if he has the opportunity to pick up extra shifts somewhere? Let's say like a community care or something. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm just throwing something out there. What if all of that overtime money could be non-taxed income and he could put all of it towards his student loan bills?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Or what if you're a single mother and you're living paycheck to paycheck and all of a sudden I get to pick up one overtime shift a week. My parents will watch my kids and this helps me catch up on bills or gather some money for Christmas. Or
it's huge.
It's huge.
Well, and you know what? Even, and I think it will be huge, but even if it's not huge for a particular individual, if they're working for tips or if they're working overtime, that means a lot to them, that Trump is working hard to make this happen for them. Mm-hmm. And that's what has this is very clearly Democrat territory. To offer that kind of a benefit see, here's the difference. And this is what I love about being a conservative and being a true Republican, or at least holding true to the Republican ideals. I don't know if I'm always a Republican, but I love the platform and I love the ideals. The left would say, we're going to give you free education. We're going to give you free health care. We're going to give everything to you for free. Trump's is coming along saying, no, you just got to keep what you earn. Mm-hmm. So you're not depriving them of their ambition. You're not depriving them of, you're not working against their desire to get ahead. You're just removing an obstacle. They still have to go out and work to get the tips. They still have to go out and work to get the overtime. It's not a freebie. It's just removing an obstacle. They can just get ahead a little bit faster, but it still requires them to work to have the benefit. The left just wants to give it to you. They want to be Santa Claus and show up and say, here's your college, here's your health care. And there's a fundamental philosophical difference between those two things.
Absolutely. I agree completely with that. The person that sent that text said, then is it going to pass? Well, here's the reason that the Democrats keep saying they're taking away Medicaid, they're cutting Medicaid, is because they've got to move the spotlight off of the no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. That should be their people.
Yeah.
They should be giving that gift to who they claim their party is, but they can't because it's a Trump idea. So they got to focus on this Medicaid thing.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. It's completely a distraction
It's a shell
narrative. Game. Yeah. But here's the problem. They're now on record voting against it.
Mm-hmm. And every Republican should be talking about that.
That should be a campaign advertisement for every contested race out there for the Republicans. But they can't help it. And that, I think, is the beauty of Trump derangement syndrome is, it's frustrating dealing with all these nut jobs, but they make the counter campaigns so easy.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the phones. Hi, caller. How are you today?
Hey, so one of the biggest criticisms that the left has on this no taxing your overtime thing is they're saying it's going to kill overtime. And I don't understand where they're coming up with that argument, because your employer doesn't care who gets the money. They still, when you work overtime, they still pay out the same amount.
Yeah.
It's just now you get it instead of the government gets it.
Wait, are you suggesting that they would lie in order to give a false impression about something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
It's just one of their things. They're going to come out and they're going to say, oh, nobody's going to get overtime anymore and all this other malarkey. And it's just not even close, because your employer still writes the same check. They still spend the same amount of money. It's just now you get to keep it in your pocket. You get to decide how much you want to spend on your budget items instead of them deciding what you're going to spend on your budget items on.
Yeah.
I would also contend more people will try to pick up those overtime shifts.
Mm-hmm.
If you know you're getting that dollar, you're getting all of that wage, I think you cover your shifts faster.
Doesn't this solve a labor problem for some companies? Because finding people wanting to work can be really tough. But this makes a big difference.
Well, this is one of the biggest things that they have against Donald Trump. He is coming in and he is fulfilling all of their campaign promises that they run on year after year after year after year, and they never do anything about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because this is a huge boon for the working class, for the middle class, to be able to keep your overtime without, because if you work between 30 and 40 hours, you get the same paycheck pretty much. And then you work over 40 hours, a huge percentage of it, and it's been a long time since I've been able to collect overtime because of the nature of my job, but it just, there was a point where you just worked and all of it went to taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you saw no benefit from doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you. Thank you for the call. Great point and a great call. We're going to shift right now. Speaker Mike Johnson is speaking after the meeting with Trump.
We're revoking tax
on the bill
status for nonprofits that materially support terrorism. We're doubling the jail time for leaks of confidential taxpayer information. We're eliminating big businesses' ability to engage in woke PR campaigns to facilitate refundability for green energy projects. We're incentivizing federal workforce to be at-will employees, and we're repealing Biden's disastrous EV mandate.
So, the Speaker of the House...
Okay. Rattling off some of the things the bill will do.
Yeah. He's trying to celebrate the win of the bill and make it seem very desirable for his Republican cohorts.
Yeah. Before we break for the news here, I want to read a couple of texts that I think are really good, relevant to our overtime discussion. Employers I've talked to are excited that people will actually want overtime, that you'll have people showing up volunteering. In fact, their biggest problem might be stopping the fist fights of their employees wanting overtime.
It's interesting because I've had a couple of conversations with people who work in systems where the onboarding process, the training process of bringing people into a position is pretty extensive. Yeah. So it's not like you can just grab someone and bring them on. If you already have a trained workforce and you get some extra work that's available, it's hard sometimes to bring a new employee on. It takes so much effort. If you've got people who'll pick up overtime, great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you bet. Someone else said, my husband does not pick up overtime because it's taxed higher and it's not worth it for him. That's true. They do tax overtime at a higher rate. Someone else said, the only thing I have against the no tax on tips is more workers shoving the iPad in my face, asking for tips before they even provide a service. Soda shops, concession stands, etc.
You can say no.
Yeah. Which I've started to say. You know what? I still do tips usually because that's usually low-wage workers and they can use it. However, will you donate $1 to this cause somewhere else?
It's always a no on that one.
That's like, no, I'm going to get nickeled and dimed to death over this. And then lastly, someone texted in and asked if we would read their text about the Shelley School District bond, $78 million bond referendum. They wrote, vote no valid justification for a new building. Shelley School Board has not explored all the options. They're just wanting to build a new school. If this passes, your property taxes will increase. $423 per $100,000 assessed valuation. Fiscal conservatives vote no today. So that is their claim. So there you have it.
Okay.
It is Election Day. So if you want to do a stump speech, here's the thing. The floor is yours. Just call in. We probably won't play the music and over-solicit. But if you want to, if there's a bond or a levy or an issue, an ambulance district, whatever, then feel free to call in and give about a 20-second stump speech. We'll be back. You have to work a certain amount of overtime hours to break even with your non-overtime pay. So it incentivizes employees to not pick. How does that work?
I
don't know.
Break even with your non-overtime pay. Because it's taxed higher. That's what they're meaning.
Okay.
Your overtime pay, I had to read it and reread it. I get it now. Because your overtime pay is taxed higher.
Yeah.
So
the amount you take hourly is even less than your regular hourly.
Yes.
Oh.
Because the government takes a bigger chunk of overtime pay currently.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a super long time since I've ever gotten overtime.
Yeah. I don't even remember when I worked for an hourly wage.
I don't even know when that was either.
Yeah.
Super long time.
Overtime pay is taxed at the same rates, but you're paying 1.5 times more if you're paying times in it.
Yes, that's a great way to say it.
So,
yes. Yeah. We're so weird with our fashion choices.
Yeah.
I've talked about Kamala Harris and her ill-fitting suits, and I believe that it was purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton and her massive amount of fabric on everything she wears.
Oh,
these
yeah.
muumuus and these big, heavy scarves. And what is she doing?
Is she
put on a shirt?
Has she put on weight and she's trying to conceal it?
I guess it's weird how we do things, you know?
Yeah.
Like almost like it's our whoopee, our comfort items that we wear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're crazy as just the human psyche. We do some weird things.
Yeah, we do. All of human nature is weird.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. They're kind of moo-moo-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. My TV's about 1.5 minutes behind Julie. Oh, James Comey. This is just his book promotion. I didn't even know he was coming out with a book.
He's so skeezy.
Not even a hint of skepticism by that report. What is her name? She's on MSNBC. Trump hater, big time.
Caitlin, no.
I forget her name. It's not Stephanie Rule.
Nicole Wallace is with NBC, not MSNBC.
I don't think it's Nicole Wallace. Yeah.
They caught another one of those escaped prisoners out of Louisiana.
Yeah.
He was asleep on a bus bench, and somebody walked past him and was like, that's one of those prisoners, and called the cops. And they came and got him.
Good. Why didn't he find a
escape? Why are you on a bus bench?
No kidding. Don't you find like an outbuilding somewhere and like, I don't know,
hide.
Go in a forest or that's weird. Maybe they're just not.
Also, you're in Louisiana. Go find an empty boat. People aren't out boating right now.
Yeah.
Go find an empty boat, crawl into it, and go to sleep. Don't sleep on a bus bench.
Right. Yeah. We need to be like consultants, like criminal consultants.
If you walked a riverbank long enough, you'd find one. Like I'm not talking like yacht size. I'm talking like a boat.
Yeah.
Just go fall asleep in a boat.
Mm-hmm.
You're protected.
Yeah. Here we go. 9:44 on News Talk 107.9. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason and you. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number is 542-1079. And Julie, this was heartbreaking. Of course, they announced that Joe Biden has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. It has metastasized into the bone. And Scott Adams, who is the Dilbert creator, he announced yesterday he has the exact same kind of cancer.
Some of you have already guessed, so this won't surprise you at all. But I have the same cancer that Joe Biden has. So I also have prostate cancer that has also spread to my bones. But I've had it longer than he's had it. Well, longer than he's admitted having it. So my life expectancy is maybe the summer. I expect to be checking out from this domain sometime this summer. I have the same cancer that Joe Biden.
Anyway,
Yeah. It was really heartbreaking to listen to that. Just such a hard reality of where your mortality is at.
Yeah.
And to be so calm and loving about it.
Well, he's like you said, he's known about it for quite some time, but he has not gone public. And the reason he gave, I think, is pretty understandable, because he's a conservative and supports Trump, and he said that he knew that he'd get a lot of hate from the left, that they would cheer on the cancer, they'd be happy that he is about to die, and sadly, he's not wrong. That's exactly what would happen, and I don't blame him for not going public with it, because I think, you're navigating that quietly with your family and your close friends and yourself and God, and when you have people that don't even know you, that are wishing for your death and publicly cheering for your death, that just why have that in your life? I mean, I'd probably do the same thing if I had a terminal illness. I think there are people out there that would cheer for my death. Yeah. And I don't say that to be sad or poor me. That's a commentary on where the world is today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And you and I had an off-air discussion yesterday about, even in our limited scope, I mean, we're not this man.
Yeah.
But even in our limited scope, we have people that wish for our demise.
Sure.
And have done things to harm our success.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the weight that you carry when you're on a bigger stage like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it does weigh on him. And because I think they're definitely, and isn't that sad? I feel like, I don't know, when I was a kid, maybe I was just naive. But even as an adult for a while, I felt like death was something that everybody sort of said, hands off. You know, you don't, it was just unseemly to publicly cheer for someone's death unless they were truly, purely evil, Hitler or whatever. And now that's not the case anymore. You have, well, heck, the former FBI director. You have people who are now leeching on to the former FBI director's Instagram post, and they are out there cheerleading for Donald Trump's assassination. I mean, to me, that's more of a statement of you and where you're at than anything else. Not about Trump, not about conservative, not about anything except your ugly black heart.
Yeah, you can be a classy conservative.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if you can be a classy Democrat, but I'm sure there's people who pull it off.
I think, you know what? I think they exist. I think of some of the Democrat legislators and lawmakers that we know, they would never cheer for our death. I don't think they'd cheer for Trump's death. I think there's still a level of civilized.
Yeah, the reason I say it would be hard to be a classy Democrat is you're cheering for the death of the unborn. Yeah, and I think that's the difficult bridge that they have to cross there. Yeah. But they can do it and not be ugly and horrible about it. So I think you can be a classy Democrat. I think both you and I try to aim to be as classy as possible as conservatives. We do make jokes sometimes, and we could probably be accused of not being. Yeah. But you're entering a whole different realm when you cheer for somebody's death.
Yeah. I like to opt for cheering for someone's retirement.
Yeah.
That's what I cheer for.
It's actually helpful to them.
It is.
Quite honestly, we have politicians that should retire, and it would be for their benefit.
Yeah, it would.
Maybe not monetarily, but peacefully.
I cheer for Nancy Pelosi's retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't. I never read the book because the title was enough. And the title was, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about them. The things people say and they do. That is a complete revelation of who they are. All right, 9:50. News Talk 1079. Quick break, and we will return after this. Our final segment coming up. I have no idea why this song played, but we'll go with it. Little Marvin Gaye. We'll be right back. Okay. The popcorn page has been at 499 followers for several hours now.
Oh, somebody
out
push
there.
him over the edge.
Be the one.
Snake River Popcorn Company.
We will be just blatant about it.
Robert asked, what was the other criminal they found hiding in a boat? That was the bomber from the Boston Marathon.
Oh, that's right.
And it was actually a really great place to hide. He was there successfully for a bit because he was hurt.
Yeah.
And then they figured it out through, I can't even remember if it was cameras. They figured out he was back there.
Yeah. Okay, let's do, we have one more Town and Country, right?
Yes.
Then I think we're good. You know what I would have said? I'll just blatantly armchair quarterback the interview with Comey. Will you apologize to President Trump?
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, that means you're calling for his assassination. Do you owe him an apology?
Yeah, that would be a good question.
Because the headline right now is no apology from Comey despite mounting outrage. Here's how I view an apology. And again, this speaks perfectly to my focus on outcomes as opposed to inputs and intentions. There's some people who think you don't apologize unless your own intentions were bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And for me, I feel like I owe an apology to someone if even my intentions were good, it turned out bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused them harm, or it caused them pain, or it caused some kind of misery or damage. Even if my actions were pristine and my intentions were good, I'm still going to go to that person and apologize.
Do you know how many adult adult kid relationships are shattered because that won't happen?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
As parents, we do things with the best of intentions, and it might not have been the best thing in that parenting situation, even though my intention was amazing.
Yeah.
When as you have an adult child and a parent and you can't talk through those things and explain your intentions and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I could go back, I would have done it this way, but I didn't know. And I'm sorry that caused you pain. I have friends who don't have relationships with their parents because of things like this.
See, that's really sad. That's really sad. Right. 9:54 on News Talk 1079. Neal Larson and Julie Mason. And I can tell you that Neal Larson and Julie Mason both get their lawn and garden supplies and products and flowers and vegetables and, of course, the 4-Step Lawn Program at Town and Country Gardens south of Idaho Falls.
Yeah, you should go on down. They're great. It's not too late to get your 4-Step Lawn Program applied to your lawn. In fact, it might even be a really great time right now because we've had all of this rain in East Idaho.
Yeah.
Throw down those humates. It will be one short week and your lawn will be so green because it'll all start to activate. And then you can just immediately do, like a week later, step 2, and then you'll be on track. And step 3 and 4 can happen later in the year, and you can have a beautiful green lawn also.
It really, and we're not talking like top of the morning Irish green. We're like talking deep forest,
the beautiful lush green.
Beautiful green. So swing by, ask them about it. It is absolutely not too late to get going on the 4-Step Lawn Program. And you'll want to get step 1 down pretty quick, but step 2 is coming here in a couple of weeks, and then you're on track. And south of Idaho Falls, Yellowstone Highway, just across from the Budweiser plant. So,
okay.
What did Hillary say about GOP women? They're a handmaiden to the patriarchy?
Yes, that Republican women we just get told what to do by the men. We've been used and abused.
Okay. Not only is that not true, that's a stupid political move.
Yep, it's a really stupid political move. And it's not true. Look at how many women Trump has surrounded himself with.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like a pretty face to put somewhere. Women who are doing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they're doers
Caroline
for sure.
Leavitt is killing it.
Yeah.
Linda McMahon is killing it.
Yeah.
These are people who are. Kristi Noem, not my favorite person. I actually think she's doing a great job in that position.
I would have to concede that you're right about that.
These are women who are doing good work.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard doing a good job. Yeah, and you're that's true. But why would Hillary say that? Because there are a lot of independent women, right? They're not always Democrats, not always Republicans. Why would you insult an entire half of the population? Like go after one gender and characterize them as if you vote for Trump, you're a handmaid. They said if it's a female Republican nominee, there'll be a handmaiden to the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't.
Wow.
I don't think that Kristi Noem is saying and doing everything she's doing because a man told her to.
No.
I don't think Caroline Leavitt is saying or doing the things in her press conference because a man told her to. I don't think Linda McMahon is doing the things she's doing because a man told her to.
Yeah. No, they're not. I mean, these are very strong women, and they're good at their jobs. That's why Trump hires them, because they do get things done. Yeah. So, okay, you know what? Just keep it up. Keep it up, Hillary. Keep it up, James Comey. Keep it up, AOC.
Can you believe she thinks she can go at it again? I really do. I think this is part of her going, we don't have anybody else. Let me do it again. Let me do it again.
You're right.
It's crazy to think she thinks she can do this.
It is nuts. But you know what? They keep doing these auditions. I think Chris Murphy's failing his. He's been visible for about 3 weeks, maybe a month now, and he's not getting traction. He's not sticking with the news cycle. So
yeah.
There's nobody that worries me. There's nobody.
He says with the biggest grin on his face.
It's the biggest grin ever. Like we have such a deep bench. Like this is like I don't want to get complacent. We did have a text earlier this morning saying, please, yes, we're in a good position, but do not get complacent. We just can't. We can't.
Yeah.
We do also want to throw out a really quick reminder. If you have an election, whether it's a bond or a levy or another issue on the ballot, make sure you make a little time to get out and vote today.
There you go.
Julie and I back tomorrow. We'll see you then.